I'd like to say something first before
Sure.
we get into the actual slideshow. If that's, could you put me on speaker? Yeah, okay. All right. Is that right? Are we there?
You're on speaker view on my.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay, so this Once Upon a Return, some of these images you will have seen from last time if you were participating in the Explore topic. And again, they're part of a whole series of images that were created that I called Once Upon a Return. And it was really a very personal story for me, but it was trying to find how, as Christina said, what story am I in? You know, so for me, looking at Clarissa Pinkola Estes' book and all of the different fairy tales and stories in there, I found pieces of myself and created imagery and tried to make it into a narrative. So, and in that process, I created this book from the images, which is now looking rather beaten up and tarnished, which I think is totally appropriate since I'm a little beaten up and tarnished. And so it began, opens up like that. I'm not going to show you this whole thing because all the images are going to be in the slideshow, but there it begins, Once Upon a Return. So given that, and some of the, as we go along in the imagery, you'll see that I've quoted various poets. So, and I will try to remember who they are as I'm doing it. If not, I can send references later. But okay, so we can begin, Christina. And then Lynn wrote this about it. I'm going to try and reduce what I see here. Okay. Once Upon a Return is a series of images for this conversation. Becoming Joy, Enter, Explore is about story, our stories. Lynn, you should be reading this. So we're going to go on this journey, and hopefully it will launch for you and a response where we can have a nice conversation. Okay, so you've already seen this image, but I'll tell it as a story now. Once upon a time, she found herself standing before a doorway. How long had it been waiting? A hand beckoned, and then from Margaret Atwood, I have to be more careful about my memories. I must be sure they are my memories. And then the first part of something from Adrienne Rich, deeper than sleep. Go ahead. But not so deep as death. So a place of knowing that you have to wake up. So I have to make sure they're my memories and not the memories of other people telling me what I felt, how I acted, what I said. So as the title goes, Once Upon a Return, this is trying to find that acorn essence that Christina was talking about. Who am I in the middle of all this? Okay, go ahead. When it had been long enough, she pauses at that stone bird and the stone heart and realizes that if she does not look into who she really is, that something inside of her will turn to stone. And the bird, just flip back one again, Christina, sorry, I meant to say this. The shape of a bird, the stone that's in the shape of a bird, birds represent spirit. And of course the heart is the kind of the central aspect of who we are as well. So she realizes I must step across the threshold into the world of the unknown and take that chance, because otherwise I'm afraid I will become, my spirit will turn to stone and my heart as well. Okay, now we can go to the next one. So stepping through the threshold it does not mean like, oh, great, I made this huge decision and now everything's going to be fine. Actually, it gets worse because now all the unknown comes up to face you. So she walks through the door, and this all represents this kind of mesh of difficulty. Go ahead to the next one. And so I can't see where I'm going. It's too difficult, but she put one foot in front of the other again and again and again. Go ahead. Oh, a light, you know, as if to say, you know, the old saying, is it a light at the end of the tunnel, or is it a train coming toward me? So she sees a light, and then we go into this a story here, and this is the Baba Yaga, which is one of the stories in Clarissa's book. And in order for her to get the light that she was sent into the forest to get, she has to perform certain tasks. So here we are at the center of the light was this old woman. She was terrifying. One side of her face was laughing, and the other was grieving because she had seen everything. So you want the light, do you? Then you must perform certain tasks. And she's thinking, tell me something I didn't know. What a nightmare. What have I done going through that threshold, So go to the next one. And so she thinks that maybe I've made a mistake. Maybe I should have stayed where I was. Now I'm paying the price. And so this little figure that I created is now in the middle of a forest. And so she closes her eyes. We go to the next one. And when she opens them, there were two mothers in front of her. One of them spoke in a very loud voice and said, listen to me, I know what is best for you. The other mother spoke so softly she could barely be heard. Listen to yourself. She wanted to hear more from this mother, but she had nothing more to give, only a pair of scissors. So she took the scissors and the advice. So this came from a story of the Baba Yaga story, where the mother who's dying gives her daughter a little doll that looks exactly like her and says, put it in your pocket, and when you're not sure what to do, just reach into your pocket and ask the doll. And of course, the doll is her intuition. And so this is an image of breaking free of other people's ideas of who you are and listening to yourself. Okay, go ahead to the next one. So she keeps on going, and this, a wild patience, this quote will continue through the next couple of pages from Adrienne Rich. A wild patience has taken me this far. So go ahead, she goes on. And it seems very lonely. She begins to cry, and her tears become a river that carry her away. Go to the next one. And they carry her to this very deep, still water. This was, you know how you make paper boats and stuff? Well, I almost lost her going down some kind of a culvert. I had to run into the water and grab her before I lost her. But so for Margaret Atwood, and now it is easy to forget what I came for. Go on to the next one. She slipped into the water and sank into its quiet depth. Something began to breathe with the water. Was it her soul? And from Adrienne Rich, Diving into the Wreck is the name of the poem. I came to see the damage that was done and the treasures that prevail. Okay, go to the next one. When she came back to the surface, she could see very clearly. And I think can't remember the poet right now. The door is closing where ghosts hide, where gods hide, where even I hide. So there's a mirror there, kind of, she's willing to look at herself. And the hand again reappears. It's kind of a beckoning to look at herself. Go ahead to the next one. And so this is the bones again. How odd to be stripped to the bone would seem to be a death, but this was not. She began to sing, the singing over the bones. And from the same poem, Diving into the Wreck, stripped, how you broke open, what sheathed you until this moment. I knew nothing about it. My ignorance of you amazes me. So this whole process of coming to realize the beauty of who one is by being willing to get down to those bones. Go to the next one. The light that was cast from the bones was so bright that it lit the path all the way home to herself. And you can see that the light on top of the stick, this is from the Baba Yaga story, is actually an image of herself that in her intuition is now so bright that she can find her way back to herself. And then the last one is this beautiful poem from Lucille Clifford. In the middle of my life, I am turning the final turn into the shining dark. Let me come to it whole and holy, not afraid, not lonely, out of my mother's life, into my own, into my own. Okay, so there's the story, and it can be seen as a personal story. It can be seen as a global story. It can be seen as an American story. There's so many ways to look at it, but I put it out there to all of you to reflect on what you might want to talk about in relation to this.